Old Edwin Curtis is being pushed to the brink of insanity by an unrelenting itch.
The itching is driving me crazy.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 urban legends that turned out to be true. For this list, we'll be looking at stories so bizarre that most people would dismiss them as fiction, except that they happened to be real, or at least based on real events. Do you know of another strange urban legend that turned out to be true, despite all the odds? Tell us about it in the comments. Number 20. Animals in the toilet. How could an animal possibly get into someone's toilet, especially with modern plumbing? The networks of curving pipes, flowing water, and germ-killing chemicals are enough to deter most creatures, but not all. Snakes are particularly good at navigating pipes, and they like cool places. They've been spotted in toilets around the world.
Everybody asked me, why didn't I video camera take pictures? Well, that wasn't my first concern when I see a snake coming out of the toilet.
And while they're not usually venomous, you still don't want to sit on one. The other most common culprits are rats. These hardy rodents can climb, swim, and wriggle through tiny spaces with amazing agility. However, someone who has just been bitten on the butt while trying to use the bathroom may not be so impressed. Number 19. Murderers through the medicine cabinet.
There's no wall there. It's only a medicine chest separating us from the other apartment. Hey, wait, what are you doing? There could be somebody on the toilet. No, the apartment's vacant. Are you sure?
The 1992 movie Candyman introduced audiences to a scene that has become almost cliche. A villain bursts through a bathroom mirror to attack an unsuspecting victim. What many viewers don't know is that this scene is based on a terrifying true story. In 1987, a woman named Ruthie Mae McCoy called 911 from her Chicago housing project, saying frantically that men were coming in through her bathroom wall. Unfortunately, police made only minimal effort to enter her locked apartment, giving up that evening and the next, even after reports of gunshots. A neighbor insisted that the building managers check on Ruthie, and they discovered her body. The murderers, who were never apprehended, had broken in through the bathroom medicine cabinet. Number 18. Charlie No Face. Kids growing up in Pennsylvania in the mid-20th century all heard stories of Charlie No Face, the green man who haunted a railroad tunnel at night. Teens dared each other to go out looking for him. People in Coppell, Beaver County, knew the truth. Charlie No Face did exist, and his name was Raymond Robinson. Growing up, Robinson was severely electrocuted and lost his eyes, nose, and right arm. As an adult, Raymond would go for long walks at night on State Route 351. He was sometimes beaten or picked up and dropped off in unfamiliar locations. Others were kind, however, bringing him cigarettes and beer. He died in 1985 at the age of 74. Number 17. A fake word in the dictionary.
People think of English as something that needs to be defended, right? Like it's this beautiful, pristine tower. Actually, it's much more like a child.
Can we trust the dictionary? What if a sneaky editor decided to play a prank on the world? Well, that hasn't happened as far as we know. But the 1934 edition of Webster's New International Dictionary did include a fake word. The word was dord, spelled D-O-R-D, and defined as density.
How did this happen? Well, it all started when a 3x5 slip of paper dated July 31st, 1931, arrived from one of our chemistry consultants.
This mistake occurred when someone misread a note from the chemistry editor that featured an uppercase D followed by the word or and a lowercase d. They thought the spaces had been left for pronunciation symbols. An editor did flag the mistake in 1939, but it wasn't corrected until 1947. Number 16. Accidental self-defenestration. Leave window testing to the engineers. In the summer of 1993, lawyer Gary Hoy threw himself through the 24th story window of the Toronto Dominion Center in front of several students. Apparently, he was impressed with the architecture of the building and had performed this stunt several times in the past to show how strong the windows were. The window didn't break, but it did come right out of its frame, and Hoy hurtled to his death. The tragic accident contributed to the demise of the well-known law firm Holden Day Wilson.
Could you make me a cup of tea, please, Stephanie?
Number 15, the Bunny Man.
A manhunt discovered a trail of half-eaten rabbits left on the ground and hanging in the trees.
Though his name suggests cuddliness, the urban legend about this Virginia man is pretty gruesome. In the story, a patient escapes a mental hospital and hangs rabbits, then children, from a bridge in Fairfax County in 1904. This probably never happened. But in 1970, two odd incidents did occur in Fairfax. A couple parked in a driveway were confronted by a man dressed in white who may, quote, have had something on his head. He threw a hatchet at the car window before disappearing. Then a security guard claimed to have seen a rabbit man chopping up a porch with an axe. The Bunny Man disappeared after that, but locals have not forgotten him, his axe, or his floppy ears. Number 14, flying with balloons. It may sound like something from an animated movie, but it really happened.
So long, boys! I'll send you a postcard from Paradise Bowl.
A man named Larry Walters attached 45 helium balloons to a plastic lawn chair and floated off into the California sky. Unlike in stories, however, such ventures don't always go as planned. Larry found himself rising all the way up to 16,000 feet, where several astonished airline pilots spotted him and notified air traffic control.
Larry Walters had always dreamed of flying a balloon to a faraway place. So with help from a friend who taped these scenes, he rigged 42 weather balloons to a lawn chair and filled them with helium.
Upon descent, Larry's craft got caught in power lines. He was arrested, but authorities found it difficult to make charges stick. You can't revoke someone's pilot license if they don't have one, and airworthiness certificates are rarely issued for lawn chairs.
The chair had come just underneath the power lines and swung into this backyard, and there were some people that were tracking him, and they got there and grabbed the chair as he came swinging in to hold it.
Number 13, animals in the sewer.
That's the one on the TV!
Ever since sewers were invented, people have been worried about creepy critters living there. For the ancient Romans, it was octopuses. For the English in the 1800s, rampaging pigs. And for Stephen King, a murderous clown. But along with the myths, there are some documented cases of unusual animals in sewers. Alligators may not have formed colonies, as legend claimed, but they do turn up in sewers along the eastern coast of the U.S.
The prospect of an animal like this on the loose below New York City is a terrifying one.
3 huge snapping turtles were found in New York sewers in 1988. And in 2015, a herd of manatees had to be rescued from a storm drain in Florida. Maybe octopuses weren't so far-fetched after all. Number 12, Cropsey.
Our camp counselors would lead us down this path, and they'd come out of the buildings and scare us.
The truth behind Cropsey may be worse than the legend. Cropsey was an alleged boogeyman who would supposedly catch and kill kids near the Willowbrook State School on Staten Island, New York. The school itself was horrifying enough. Students there were subjected to abuse, neglect, and unsanitary conditions until it closed in 1987. That same year, a missing girl's body was discovered on school grounds, and Andre Rand, a former janitor at Willowbrook who still lived there, was convicted of kidnapping her.
Did they get a crazy man and just say he's the guy, or did they really have good evidence against him that would stick in a court?
He was also a suspect in several similar cases and was convicted on another kidnapping charge while serving time.
He's not going to testify. I'm very disappointed to say. It seemed like he was wanting to divulge information, of course not necessarily confess to anything, but certainly he was very antsy, and that seemed like a good sign to people who might like to try to get information out of him.
Number 11, someone hiding in the back seat.
Oh no, what's this?
A woman is driving home at night when suddenly the car behind her starts flashing its headlights, or the gas station attendant tries to get her attention. It turns out they were trying to alert her to the man hiding in her back seat. The details seem to be made up, but there have been cases where men have snuck into women's cars, although the urban legend precedes them. In 2013, a man got into a woman's van while she was at a gas station in Hammond, Indiana, and abducted her. 3 years later, a woman was parking her car in Maple Ridge, British Columbia, Canada, when a man popped up in the back seat, causing her to crash. She ran away, as did the suspect. Number 10, killer elevators. We're sure it sounds familiar. A person steps into an elevator, but suddenly it goes crazy and kills them. While such incidents are rare, they have happened. In 2003, a 35-year-old surgical resident in Texas was entering a hospital elevator after his colleague when the doors began to close. And didn't stop. The doctor was trapped between them. Though his colleague frantically pushed the emergency stop button, it was too late. The elevator began going up. With his upper body inside the car and his lower body outside, the doctor didn't stand a chance. Obviously, multiple safety measures usually prevent this sort of thing. The incident was blamed on faulty wiring. Number 9, the toxic lady.
You can't.
Her real name was Gloria Ramirez. She had late-stage cervical cancer and was deteriorating rapidly when she came to the ER. She died less than an hour later. But Ramirez had a bizarre effect on the hospital staff. Multiple people who treated her suffered odd symptoms: fainting, shortness of breath, even temporary paralysis.
For the autopsy 6 days later, the coroner's office built a specially sealed room, and the staff was protected with hazardous duty suits. Afterwards, everyone was hosed down with decontaminants.
A team wearing hazmat suits performed her autopsy, but couldn't explain why those around her had fallen ill. Most experts dismissed it as mass hysteria until the coroner's office found that Ramirez had been trying to treat herself with dimethyl sulfone cream. When exposed to oxygen, this creates a vapor that affects people like poison gas.
I asked the nurse to start an IV that about coincidentally at the same time I smelled, ammonia. To me, it was ammonia. And I kind of made a comment that, that's really strong ammonia. And I kind of felt, like I was going to pass out then.
Number 8, a secret murder. Although Betsy Aardsma died in 1969, the circumstances of her death were so strange that the case still haunts Penn State University. Aardsma, a graduate student, was browsing in an aisle of the library when people nearby heard books falling. They found her lying senseless on the floor, and she was brought to the campus hospital, where a doctor was shocked to discover something no one else suspected. Aardsma had been murdered. The killer had only stabbed her once, and in such a way that she hardly bled at all. Because it took so long to realize a crime had been committed, most evidence at the scene was lost. The phantom killer was never found. Number 7, dead people mistaken for Halloween decorations.
Actually, I didn't know what happened until I'd already went by. I saw the flood.
That was part of a 911 call made by a man in Tennessee who was heading to work. He made the call after he saw what appeared to be a dead body lying in his neighbor's driveway.
You've probably noticed that Halloween decorations have been getting more and more gruesome and realistic. This has led to a strange problem: people mistaking real dead bodies for fake ones. This happened in 2005 in Frederica, Delaware, and in 2009 in Marina del Rey, California, after the bodies of people who had taken their own lives were thought to be Halloween pranks. There was another case in 2014 in Spring Hills, Florida, after a man hanged himself in his garage. A pair of handymen found the body, assumed it was a mannequin, and brought it to a dump, only for the landfill workers to note that it was in fact a corpse.
All 4 of them convinced themselves that it was some Halloween-type prop. Obviously, they felt it was very realistic.
That's because it was real.
Maybe we should tone down the decorations just a little bit. Number 6, buried alive.
Take care, Murph.
Being buried alive is many people's biggest fear, and it has certainly happened before when people have been falsely declared dead. Horrifyingly, it's also happened on purpose. In 1987, an Illinois businessman was kidnapped and held for ransom. For some weird reason, the kidnappers buried him in a box with water and a breathing tube. Unfortunately, the tube failed, and by the time police arrived, he was dead. There was another case in 2020 when a man in Jingbian County, Shaanxi Province, China, allegedly buried his 79-year-old mother in a shallow grave. Miraculously, she was reportedly rescued by police who dug her out. Number 5. Bodies in rugs. You may have seen this in movies before. A murderer rolls their victim up in a rug and carries it off without arousing suspicion. It's happened enough in real life to make you wonder if fiction inspired reality or the other way around. For one thing, a discarded carpet doesn't usually attract much attention. In Douglasville, Georgia, a body rolled up in a carpet inside an abandoned house wasn't discovered for months in 2022. Of course, if someone's feet happen to be sticking out of the rug, it's a little more noticeable. A pedestrian spotted one like that in Manhattan in 2019. In both cases, police were unable to determine what had happened. So beware, a rug may be more sinister than it seems. Number 4, secret sharers.
I'm like, who the heck are you? Why are you in my house? And she keeps kind of going, this is my house. I live here. I've been here for 3 days.
Ever misplaced something at home? You were sure it was right there, but somehow it's in another room. Well, probably you're just misremembering. Otherwise, it's a ghost. Or worse, a secret sharer living in your house. It may sound impossible, but people have pulled it off. In 2017, a woman in Arlington, Virginia thought she heard footsteps overhead after moving into a new apartment. 6 months later, she found the attic door open and discovered someone had been living there. She never knew who it was. In 2008, a Japanese man noticed food and other items going missing, so he installed security cameras in his house. It turned out that a woman was living above his closet and had gone undetected for a year.
집 앞 CCTV도 싹 잘라놨거든. 나 여기 온 거 아무도 몰라요. 나 잘했지 언니? 말끝마다 언니.
Number 3, dead people in drinking water.
When they peered inside, they saw that Elisa Lam was floating face up. She was in a considerable state of decomposition.
Sorry, we know it's gross, but it does occasionally happen. One famous case in 2013 was at the Cecil Hotel in California. Guests complained that the water coming from their taps had a strange color and smell. As it turned out, a young woman's body was in the hotel water tank. She had gone missing a few weeks earlier. More recently, as the western U.S. faces a terrible drought, people have been disturbed to find that Lake Mead, one of the largest drinking water reservoirs in the country, contains a number of dead bodies, which are now being exposed as the water recedes. If it makes you feel any better, drinking water that's been around a corpse isn't usually harmful, just really, really disturbing. Number 2, bugs living in people. When an insect flies into your eye or some other part of your face, it's bad for everyone, including the insect, which will likely be swatted. It's the bugs who enjoy being inside people that are truly horrifying. Take itch mites.
Adult mites will often seek out a new host. They do this by hitching a ride on sheets, linens, or through skin-to-skin contact.
They're so tiny you don't even know they've burrowed into your flesh until you develop an itchy rash. You may also be interested to know that some flies pass on parasitic Loa Loa worms when they bite. These worms swim around beneath your skin and your eyes, sometimes visibly. They can also inflate your brain and kill you. But unfortunately, getting rid of them is very difficult. If that freaks you out, trust us, you're not alone.
The doctors prepare the girl for a difficult procedure.
So they lay her in this chair.
I felt helpless, worried.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into settings and switch on your notifications. Number 1, organ trafficking.
What do you got? Liver.
What's that? What are you hanging out at AA meetings?
Although lurid stories about travelers being drugged and waking up missing a kidney have been fabricated, organ trafficking does exist. Desperate need has led to a black market system where people pay huge sums to receive organ transplants without government oversight. But who are the donors? People as desperate as the ones needing transplants: refugees, unemployed migrants, families living in abject poverty. They are offered money for their blood or organs. But if they accept, the money often turns out to be less than promised.
দেনা 2 লাখের পার হয়েছিল। এগুলা মনে হয় সংসারের ভেতর কাজ করতে করতে এগুলা সব দেনার মধ্যে আমার টাকাগুলা ঢুকছে ঢুকে আর সে টাকা শোধ করা যায় না।
Weakness from medical procedures puts them entirely in the power of the traffickers. Sometimes truth is not only stranger, but also stranger and sadder than fiction.
He's always reminded of what was stolen from him by his car. His body has to adapt to just one kidney.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.
Welcome to a new video. Beaches are known for their beauty and relaxation, where people sunbathe, walk, and swim. However, in addition to these coastal experiences, sometimes eerie things are also found on the beach. These discoveries remind us that the sea can sometimes hold unexpected secrets and creepy surprises. Are you new to this channel? Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And before we start, also like the video. In July 2023, a remarkable incident unfolded on the shores of an Australian beach, capturing the attention of both locals and experts. A massive metal dome had washed ashore, sparking speculation and curiosity about its origin and purpose. The mysterious object raised intriguing questions about its relationship to space exploration and even the infamous disappearance of Flight MH370. Authorities labeled the colossal metal dome as potentially hazardous and warned people to keep their distance. Some believe that the dome may have once been a crucial component of a rocket used for space exploration. One prominent theory suggested a connection between the dome and India's satellite launch missions. It was thought to resemble a fuel tank from the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle rocket, which India had successfully launched in April of that year. The dimensions of the rocket dome were approximately 8 feet or 2.5 meters wide and 10 feet or 3 meters tall, matching the characteristics of a fuel tank used in such launches. However, others speculated that it might have been part of an aircraft. The discovery led to comparisons with the MH370 flight, which had disappeared almost a decade earlier in 2014. In February of the year 2020, local residents found a strange dolphin-like sea creature on a beach in Mexico. When its picture was posted on social media, many people had no idea what exactly the creature could have been. The creature that washed up on the shore before their eyes was one that the history books never mentioned. The bizarre sea creature had a tail similar to that of an eel or a snake, but its body was more like that of a dolphin. In addition to a dolphin-like head, its jaws showed sharp teeth. Upon further examination of the body, things became even more creepy. The creature had no flippers, but that's not all, because it also had no eyes, like at all. That means it probably must have come from the extreme depths of the Pacific Ocean, where there's no light and no need for eyes. But if so, how did it end up on the beach? What do you think? In a fascinating twist of events, a mysterious object emerged from the sands of Daytona Beach shores in Florida. The unusual discovery, believed to be a combination of wood and metal, was unearthed due to the unprecedented erosion caused by Hurricanes Ian and Nicole. Authorities in Volusia County, who examined the object, have stated that such level of erosion had not been observed in the region for at least 25 years. The approximately 79-foot or 24-meter-long structure that was exposed is the result of powerful hurricanes. Tamara Molfers, a spokeswoman for Volusia County, acknowledged that they are uncertain about the nature and origin of the object. Numerous theories have emerged online, speculating that it could be a shipwreck, remnants of an old pier, or even seating from NASCAR's historic beach races. However, no official confirmation has been released regarding the identity of the object. The challenge authorities now face is how to fully excavate the object, as shifting tides cause it to be submerged during high water, making it difficult to access. When a local woman in Mazatlan in western Mexico first came across the sea monster, she initially thought it was a piece of rope. Upon further investigation, she discovered it was a sea monster. The creature's dead eyes stared at her, and its teeth also looked quite terrifying. The strange thing is that the creature was never officially identified. Some claim it was an eel or a sea serpent, but neither theory have been confirmed. Take a look at this mysterious doll that washed ashore on Cape Canaveral Beach in Florida. The doll, made from coconuts, caught the attention of a beachgoer, Bruce Robertson. The doll, made from coconuts, caught the attention of beachgoer Bruce Robertson due to its unusual features. It had human teeth, snakeskin, and feathers on its arms and legs. Bruce was told by other beachgoers that it was likely a voodoo doll and needed to be destroyed. However, after doing some research, he concluded that the doll actually represented an African spider god named Anansi, used by slaves from Ghana for luck and protection. Michelle Davis, the owner of an African bookstore in Cocoa, disagreed with Bruce's interpretation. She found the doll creepy and believed it had human skin. She speculated that it could have been part of a voodoo ritual and emphasized that voodoo is still practiced in various places around the world. It's one thing to discover a sea creature that washes ashore, but it's quite another to discover a complete World War II fighter plane. In the early 2020s, a sand shift exposed a fighter plane on the beach in Britain. A couple who decided to spend a day at the beach found this wreckage. For about 45 minutes, the couple examined the wreckage and took a lot of pictures, as any curious person would. After they went home, the magnitude of what they had found dawned on them. They had in fact discovered a missing World War II plane. The British Royal Air Force Museum was called in, and they confirmed that it was a Bristol Bowfighter TF that had crashed in April 1944. The fighter was from the Royal Air Force, and it was 76 years old. Surely, this must have been a trip to the beach that they won't soon forget. After a tsunami in Japan, 2 people discovered that the ocean had washed up something strange on the beach. When this unexplained ball was encountered, people quickly got chills down their spines. Even when the creature was gently touched, it did not respond. Believe it or not, but according to experts, this creature was thought to have come from a sea sponge. The theory claims that the sea sponge was ripped off a reef and washed up on the beach. Sea sponges are common in Japan and can reach gigantic sizes, and they also have fascinating geometric patterns. While walking their dog, Melanie and her husband Mike stumbled upon the carcass of an enormous creature. Enormous is actually an understatement. This thing was over 11 feet long. This event took place in 2016, and the couple, who have 2 children, were used to seeing creatures like jellyfish wash up on the shore. However, this was no jellyfish. Initially, Melanie mistook the colossal remains for a piece of driftwood, but she soon realized it was an animal due to the presence of thousands of flies around it. Melanie has since speculated about the identity of the mysterious creature and suggested it could be a whale. However, the theory was dismissed because whales don't typically wash ashore in the area that this was found. A new theory suggested that it might be the remains of a dinosaur. To this day, nobody knows what this is or how it ended up there. The creature has been given a name, though, the Beast of Port Talbot. The Megalodon is a species of shark that is thought to have gone extinct 2.6 million years ago, although there are those who believe that the Megalodon is still swimming around in the depths of the ocean. However, Megalodon teeth are found from time to time. One such case was by a young girl named Avery, who was relaxing with her family on a beach in Topside, North Carolina, USA. Her father had taken them to pursue his 20-plus-year-old hobby of searching for Megalodon teeth. Megalodon teeth are a special find, considering that the Megalodon went extinct a long time ago, and the tooth Avery found was also millions of years old. But as I mentioned earlier, they are sometimes found more often. 130 kilometers away, a man named Harvey saw a glint of something dark in the sand. When he turned it over, he saw that it was an entire Megalodon tooth, said to be over 3 million years old. If we were to tell you that a regular cross had washed up on the shore, you probably wouldn't attach much significance to this incident. But take a look at the size of this cross. This massive painted wooden cross mysteriously washed ashore at the Ocean Manor Beach Resort in Fort Lauderdale, completely adorned with barnacles. The cross, which was over 20 feet long, left both the local residents and visitors in awe, leading to speculations about its origin and meaning. The origin of the cross is a subject of debate, with various theories emerging. Some have suggested that it might have come from Puerto Rico, while others mention the nearby Florida Keys as a possible origin. Frank, the owner of the resort, interpreted the arrival of the cross as a sign of protection and considered it as divine intervention. He revealed that his sister had been on the beach that day, fervently praying due to a troubling dream. Frank decided to preserve the cross at the resort, and visitors are now welcome to view it and take pictures with it. However, to ensure its safety, Frank arranged the cross to be moved farther from the shoreline. This endeavor required the combined efforts of 7 individuals in 2 SUVs to transport the massive object higher up on the sandy beach. Some people believe the cross may have once belonged to an old pirate ship, and possibly served as a supporting structure for hoisting sails. When something like a treasure shark washes up on the beach, you have to wonder where exactly they live in the ocean. Although they sometimes swim close to the surface of the water, they are rarely seen that close to the beaches. In fact, they are so rare that this find was considered lucky, and information gathered about this mysterious creature. This shark with eyes the size of dinner plates found its way to New Zealand beach. And yes, the shark's tail not only looks dangerous, but is also used to stun prey underwater. Get ready to be amazed by the recent viral sensation originating from the sandy shores of Galveston, Texas. In an enchanting encounter, a beachgoer captured the internet's attention with photos showcasing a peculiar creature emerging from the depths of the sandy beach. The Texas Parks and Wildlife Department identified the intriguing visitor as a shrimp eel, typically residing in the muddy waters of bays and inlets. The online community erupted in a mix of amazement, humor, and even conspiracy theories in response to the shrimp eel's appearance. Everything from saying it would have given them the creeps to referring to them as aliens. Shrimp eels typically have slender snake-like bodies, distinguished by their broad snouts and 2 to 3 irregular rows of teeth. Their coloring can range from dark gray or black to vibrant yellow, adding to their allure. Interestingly, these eels, if swallowed whole by another fish, are known for their burrowing instincts in making a bold escape attempt from the stomach of a predator. Yeah, you heard that right. They dig their way out of the stomach of the one who just ate them. Pretty weird, huh? Everyone knows that mermaids are half human, half fish, usually with long hair and fishtails. However, if the following video is to be believed, someone had found a body of a mermaid. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any info in which country or which beach, but we can see in the video that it seems to have fins and looks fragile, just like a fish in the sun. As you may know, more than 95% of the ocean is unexplored. So who knows what could be down there? Could this be a real washed-up mermaid? What do you think? North Korea recently showcased its military might be conducting the largest military exercise ever held to commemorate the founding of the country's army. Live fire exercises took place in the Wonsan region in the eastern part of the country. A North Korean government official later stated the event marked the country's largest military exercise to date, featuring an impressive display of 300 artillery cannons. The order to commemorate the demonstration came directly from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Massive self-propelled cannons with large calibers were strategically positioned along the coast, and they all fired simultaneously. It's worth noting that military exercises, including displays of power, are not uncommon for North Korea, especially on significant occasions like the Day of the Armed Forces. The celebration marked the 85th anniversary of the founding of the North Korean Army. The timing of these exercises gained added significance due to the recent reinforcement of the United States military presence in the region. Through these exercises, North Korea aims to remind its adversaries that it's capable of inflicting significant damage. When you see a giant squid in real life, the myth of the Kraken no longer seems to be so far-fetched. The largest known to us was a whopping 40 feet, or 12 meters long. This next giant squid landed on a beach near Wellington, New Zealand, in August 2018. A group of the 3 people had previously found sharks in the same area, but this was the first time a giant squid had washed up. Giant squid are creatures that live very deep in the ocean, so it remains a bit of a mystery of how this giant squid washed up on the beach. What's the last thing you'd expect to find on a beach? You'll probably never have thought of some ancient tombstones. But this happened in June 2012, when the sand, due to a strong wind, exposed some creepy tombstones on the shore of Ocean Beach in San Francisco, USA. One of the tombstones in question was almost completely intact, bearing the date of death of April 26, 1890. Tombstones are meant to last literally an eternity, and it's questionable how exactly this one ended up on the beach. However, this tombstone, along with thousands of others, was removed from city cemeteries in the early 20th century to make way for new construction projects. The stones were used as landfills, and some were simply dumped into San Francisco Bay. Still, you'll be surprised if you come across a tombstone on the beach, rather than in a cemetery, don't you think? Brian Daniel, a self-proclaimed conspiracy theorist, claims to have discovered an extraterrestrial underwater base near a beach. His assertion came after he found an extraterrestrial body washed ashore, which he insists is of non-human origin. He even shared footage showing government officials seemingly removing what appeared to be an extraterrestrial being from the beach. According to Brian's claims, the so-called base is purportedly located off the coast of Greece and can even be found on Google Maps. He further asserted that upon closer examination, the underwater base reveals a distinctive 26-foot or 8-meter long opening in the middle. According to Brian, this enigmatic facility serves as a refuge for unidentified flying objects. However, this is not the first time Brian has ventured into the realm of extraterrestrial conspiracies. He has previously claimed to have tracked an object from space and has suggested that these extraterrestrial beings have been lurking in our oceans all along. The Trunco Globster is the name of an unidentified organic mass that washed up on the shoreline in Margate, South Africa in 1924. Its story is wild from start to finish. Trunco was reportedly seen fighting with 2 orcas. The man who saw him thought it was a polar bear at first. He also saw him come out of the water and attack the orcas with his tail. 3 hours later, the orcas left, and Trunco drifted towards the beach. According to eyewitnesses, the creature would have been as much as 46 feet tall, 46 feet or 14 meters long. Its 1 meter long trunk gave its nickname, Trunco. 10 days later, however, a tidal wave washed him back into the ocean. Patricia, a resident of Texas, shared the following image on April 13th on Facebook after a friend came across the mysterious creature along Bolivar Beach. Unable to identify the fish, Patricia turned to the internet for help, resulting in a flood of comments and speculations. The photo showed a creature adorned with numerous teeth and bumps, leading some to liken it to an alien. Those curious about the photo in the Facebook group endeavored to unravel the identity of the creature. When news media reached out to government agencies for answers, it shed light on the mysterious find. According to them, the creature in question is believed to be the gills and gills arches of a fish that was likely caught and filleted by someone. Although the exact species could not be identified, it was thought to be a large sportfish. The feather-like structures seen in the photo were identified as the gills, which are connected to the bony gill arches. These are the same waters where a month earlier, someone captured a viral video of an alligator walking along the beach shoreline. The Monster of St. Augustine is a story you probably don't want to hear at night. The monster was discovered in November of 1896 by 2 young boys and is considered a so-called globster, a strange unidentified organic mass that washed ashore. This one landed on Anastasia Island in Florida. The 2 boys first thought it was a whale and ran off to share their find. But this turned out not to be an ordinary whale. This monster was 6 meters long and 2.5 meters wide, with a weight of up to 5,000 to 6,000 kilograms. The globster had several arms or tentacles, or at least the remains of them. Its skin was so rough that it was impossible to cut it with a knife. It took a whole team of men and 6 horses to drag it away. Whether it was a giant squid, a whale, or a mysterious sea monster, nobody knows. What do you think it was? A group of friends was relaxing on a beach in New Zealand when suddenly an orca was spotted near the coast. What makes it eerie is that the orca came alarmingly close, causing everyone to run out of the water. However, one of the most common shark species in New Zealand is the bronze whaler shark. These sharks are known for their preference for coastal habitats and are often spotted near shorelines, especially in the summer when they follow schools of fish closer to the coast. Other shark species found in New Zealand waters include the great white shark. Great white sharks roam the coastal areas of New Zealand and are responsible for dozens of accidents each year. What would your reaction be if you saw a shark fin sticking out of the water? Or have you experienced this before? Let me know in the comments. How often does a sea monster with a beak and a furry tail appear on the beach? Not often, but according to several articles, this is how a mysterious sea monster washed up along the east coast of Russia. The prevailing theory is that it's a rare species of dolphin, one that has never been seen before. Even experts think that it's a very strange creature, as dolphins don't normally have fur. They also doubt that it lives in the waters near the beach, or that it was simply washed up by the warm currents. Shells regularly wash up on the shore, but creepy dolls don't. These dolls are often covered in barnacles and lack limbs, hair, and eyes. Photos of them were posted on a Facebook page of the local organization Mission Aransas Reserve, which documents many intriguing finds. They say they come across dozens of these dolls, but the creepiest of them are those without hair and with barnacles growing out of their empty eye sockets. However, there's a scientific reason for this phenomenon, but why it's always dolls remains a mystery. The Texas coastal bend area where these creepy dolls were discovered has been identified as a junk magnet. The beaches in this area receive as much as 10 times the amount of debris compared to any other beach in the Gulf of Mexico. A strong ocean current, known as the Yucatan Loop, currently regularly pushes objects to the shores of Texas, creating an influx of debris. The largest manta ray ever caught was in 1920 and had an incredible length of 30 feet, or 9 meters. These ocean monsters looked extraterrestrial, but unfortunately their population is threatened. The reason is because they often get caught in fishermen's nets. In some cases, they are also washed up on the beach. In this video, we see people rescuing a giant manta ray that became entangled in fishing nets. Unfortunately, there are also cases where they are caught by fishermen. However, this giant manta ray looked heavy enough to overturn the boat and was about 16 to 23 feet, or 5 to 7 meters long. During the summer season in Qingdao, a city in East China, there's an annual invasion of fluorescent green algae along the coast. This phenomenon turns the beaches into a vast green expanse. Despite government efforts to clean up the algae, it remains a challenge to combat the algae originating from the Yellow Sea. The accumulation of algae on the beaches of Qingdao is a common sight, and in photos, we can see Chinese tourists dealing with the algae in various ways. Some people apply the algae to their bodies, while others go as far as to bury themselves in it. Additionally, people have used algae to create sculptures and sand art by mixing it with sand. These activities showcase visitors' creative and playful responses to the unique natural phenomenon. According to official statistics, the algal bloom has covered approximately 8,900 hectares of land in the Shandong province in China. To address this issue, authorities have deployed a large number of ships, a total of 2,173 for cleanup efforts. These efforts have resulted in the removal of over 70,000 tons of algae from both land and sea, with 40,000 tons specifically collected from the coast. While the algae themselves are not toxic, they pose a potential threat to fish and other marine life. On October 10, 2016, a man taking a beach walk in Charleston, South Carolina, saw something metallic half buried in the sand. This happened shortly after Hurricane Matthew wreaked havoc on the coast. The man was checking for damages that day. During the American Civil War, which lasted from 1861 to 1865, the area had been a fortress, and many attacks were made on it. But the man had not expected to find 16 cannonballs. The authorities were called, and eventually a U.S. Air Force explosive team was called in. They had to detonate the 150-year-old cannonballs. Even though they were more than 2 centuries old, they were no less deadly. Even the locals reported hearing the explosions. No, The Monster of Foley Beach is not the title of a new horror movie. One day at Foley Beach in South Carolina, a man found a strange creature on the beach. The green spots on its tan skin alone looked disturbing. But what struck the crowd most were his dinosaur-like leg plates and his 7 feet or 2 meter long appearance. Theories about its identity range from a dinosaur-like sea monster to a mutated chupacabra. Others thought that it might be an Atlantic sturgeon. However, these sea creatures can reach lengths of 16 feet to 20 feet, or 5 to 6 meters. A peculiar and mysterious spectacle unfolded when an intriguing carcass washed ashore on the banks of a Russian beach. Reacting swiftly to the discovery, Russian special forces seized the remains for further examination. Initial assessments left experts puzzled, as the creature seemed to defy categorization as a fish or crocodile, sparking speculation. With a length of about 20 feet or 6 meters, this creature had another mysterious feature, a cover resembling fur or hair. While nothing was ever confirmed, they concluded it could possibly be a beluga whale. Beluga whales are known for their distinctive white appearance and bulbous foreheads, and inhabit the Antarctic and subarctic regions of the Northern Hemisphere. These marine mammals are known for their intelligence, social behavior, and impressive vocalizations. Although they're typically associated with their shiny white skin, it's not unheard of for them to exhibit discolorations or abnormalities due to various factors. What do you think was found on this Russian beach? Let me know in the comments. In theory, we know that sperm whales can reach 60 feet or 18 meters in length. Unfortunately, they occasionally wash up on beaches in the town of Skegness in England. Not one, but 3 sperm whales were found. However, there's also an example of a 62 feet or 19-meter long whale that washed ashore in eastern China. This one was still alive, and thanks to the 20-hour efforts of local firefighters, the sperm whale was pushed back into the water. Near Takaka and Golden Bay, 3 whales have washed ashore before. Dozens of people came to the beach to view the majestic animals. According to several articles, the remains of a 1500-year-old church were uncovered during a coastal excavation. The location, situated along the shores of Ashdod in Israel, has revealed a series of well-preserved architectural features that provide valuable insights into the Byzantine era. As archaeologists painstakingly uncovered layer by layer of the past, mosaics and fragments of frescoes came to light, bearing witness to the artistic and religious traditions of that time. Apart from its architectural grandeur, the Byzantine church serves as a testament to the historical significance of the region. Ashdod, with its strategic coastal location, has long been a crossroads of cultures and civilizations. The discovery of the ancient place of worship adds another layer to the complex story of the city's history and sheds light on the religious practices of its inhabitants. Unearthing this 1500-year-old church also provides a tangible connection to the people who once walked along the shores of Ashdod, leaving traces of their beliefs and traditions behind. In October of 2017, a creepy video of an alien sea monster lying sprawled on the beach circulated on the internet. People began to speculate what it could be, but no one had any idea. Its appearance looked strange, with a claw-like head and 4 arms that looked like tentacles. But that wasn't all. Behind it, a long line could be seen. Not clear whether it was the creature's path or whether it's part of the mysterious body. In case you're curious where in the world this creature was washed up, it was on the beach of Juliandorp in the Netherlands. Unfortunately, there are no more pictures, so we can't see the monster more clearly. We can only guess at what kind of sea monster this could have been. While taking a stroll on Australia's Bondi Beach, a local resident named Drew stumbled upon something unusual. Drew captured video footage of the creature stranded on the shore, revealing its distinctive feature: large puckered lips resembling those of a human. You might even liken the creature to something out of a science fiction movie or cartoon. Despite its human-like lips, the creature's skin appeared shark-like, leaving observers puzzled about its true nature. Upon closer examination, Drew noted that the creature's mouth was located on the underside of its body. Unlike a shark, experts later identified the creature as a coffin ray, a ray species native to Australia. Though its fins and tail were missing, the species' distinctive features were still recognizable. Coffin rays are known in temperate to tropical seas around Australia and can occasionally be found in sandy areas and shallow bays. The creature's unusual appearance can also be attributed to factors such as decomposition and bloating. A dolphin washing up may be disturbing, but the next person had found a dolphin on the beach that had 2 heads. The dolphin was found by a gym teacher on a beach in Dikili, Turkey, near the western city of Izmir. He had spotted the dolphin as the waves brought it closer and closer. At first, the man thought it was an ordinary sea creature, but he was shocked when he saw the 2 heads. The 2-headed dolphin is believed to be a calf, about a year old, and it was less than a meter long. While it had 2 heads, its body transitioned into 1 tail. But that wasn't the only thing different about it. The eyes of 1 head were almost closed, as was one of its blowholes. The 2-headed dolphin had the extremely rare condition called polycephaly. The 2-headed dolphin had the extremely rare condition called polycephaly. The condition, which also occurs in humans and other animals, results in having 2 heads, like the process of Siamese twins. The Moreki boulders, located in Koikoi Beach in New Zealand, have fascinated visitors with their mysterious origin. These massive spherical rocks, some with diameters of up to 10 feet or 10 meters, have sparked various theories and legends about their formation. We'll explore 5 different explanations for the origin of the boulders: a Maori legend, alien eggs, volcanic activity, lightning strikes, and a scientific explanation. According to the Maori legend, the boulders are the remains of a stranded canoe, with the rocky sandbanks of nearby Shag Point representing the petrified hull. Another theory suggests that the boulders are alien eggs, either from space or washed ashore by the ocean. The possibility of volcanic activity is also considered, proposing that the boulders were ejected from an ancient volcano and landed on the Koikoi Beach. Another theory suggests that massive lightning strikes may have formed the boulders by shattering and compacting the matter. Lastly, there's a scientific explanation classifying the boulders as septarian concretions. This theory suggests they began forming 60 million years ago on the ancient sea floor, with calcite crystals accumulating around cores of fossilized shells or wood. Which theory do you believe? Let me know in the comments. You've probably never heard of the megamouth sharks. This is because they are very rare, and they don't often show themselves. The sharks have an unusual rounded snout that gives them distinctly non-shark-like appearance. The species, which can live up to 100 years, was discovered in 1974 by a US Navy research vehicle in Hawaiian waters. Since then, there have only been around 269 confirmed sightings. Most recently, in June 2022, another one washed up ashore in the Philippines. And another incident a few years ago, also in the Philippines, but in Pio Duran, Albay. This was a giant male, 15 feet or 4.6 meters long. An unidentified object discovered by a diver in Palm Beach has piqued curiosity and speculation within the local community. The diver named David stumbled upon the mysterious item while snorkeling with his children at a depth of about 5 to 10 feet or 1.5 to 3 meters. Initially, he mistook the object for a rocket due to its appearance, which raised some concerns about potential dangers. However, he remained calm in the hope that there would be no explosion or damage. Residents in the area speculate that the remains could be from World War II military equipment or a discarded torpedo. To assess the situation, police boats with divers equipped with ropes were dispatched to this location. The dive team managed to remove pieces of the object, but could not determine its true identity, leaving the mystery unsolved. Initially, however, the police indicated that the object might be a US training rocket and has since been removed from the area. Do you believe this explanation? When people first saw this video pop up on the internet, they thought a giant octopus had washed up on the beach. However, its identity was quickly revealed. In fact, this octopus was part of a publicity stunt by Netflix to advertise the 4th season of the popular series, Stranger Things. But imagine if you didn't know that, and you see this creature lying on the beach. Pretty creepy. Recently, skeleton remains were discovered by a woman named Bobby Lee while driving along the beach in Keppel Sands, Australia. The woman posted a photo of the creature on Facebook, describing it as a mermaid with a human skull and a hairy body. The image sparked a wave of speculation and curiosity. People made various suggestions to identify the creature, ranging from dead sea lions or dolphins to more exotic possibilities, like a mermaid or even an extraterrestrial being. Some advised the woman to contact local authorities due to the resemblance of the skull to a human. However, most people believed it belonged to a decomposed marine mammal, possibly a seal. The shape of the head and the robustness of the ribs were cited as indicators supporting the theory. The truth is that to this day, no one knows what it was. What do you think? The mysterious Montauk Monster was found on the beach off the coast of Ditch Plains in New York, July 2008. This monster clearly resembles nothing from our world, raising the alarming question of how much we don't know about the ocean. Some people claim the Montauk Monster had been an experiment of mutation, since there is a nearby laboratory across the beach. The Montauk Monster mysteriously only made the news for a short time, and it was never mentioned again after that. On February 22, 2017, local residents thought the apocalypse had arrived. This is because a strange blob had washed up on a beach in the Philippines. The blob was about 6 meters long, and further examination revealed that it weighed 2,000 kilograms. A sea creature of such colossal size naturally made everyone think it was a whale, but it didn't quite fit that description. The creature had mysterious hair-like strands that closed around its body. According to researchers at National Geographic, these would be decomposing muscle fibers. What makes this even creepier is that this is not the first time a giant hairy blob has washed ashore. A year earlier, another 15-meter-long animal was mistaken for a blob. And in 2003, a similar 13-ton blob was found in Chile. What kind of creatures do you think these are? The phenomenon of Peruvian jellyfish washing up in large numbers is a natural occurrence observed along the coast of Peru. These specific jellyfish, known as agua mala or stinging water in Spanish, belong to the species Pelagia noctiluca and are often found in the Pacific Ocean. During certain times of the year, ocean currents and environmental factors can lead to significant increases in the jellyfish population. When these conditions coincide, massive numbers of jellyfish are pushed toward the coast, resulting in mass strandings on the beaches of Peru. This phenomenon is often referred to as a jellyfish bloom or jellyfish invasion. The sting of the Peruvian jellyfish can also be quite painful. They have venomous tentacles lined with specialized cells called cnidites, which contain harpoon-like structures called nematocysts. When these tentacles come into contact with human skin, the nematocysts shoot venom, causing a burning sensation, redness, and swelling. In some cases, the sting can cause more severe symptoms, including nausea, dizziness, and breathing difficulties. The next creature found on the beach was called the hellfish. People gave it the specific name because of the dinosaur-like jaws, ferocious fangs, and hellish eyes. However, this is not the only hellfish ever found. When a monkfish washes up from the depths, it gets the same reactions. The deep-sea fish known to inhabit the pitch-black deep ocean is rarely seen, but sometimes the deep-sea creatures end up on beaches in Orange County, California. The deep-sea Pacific football fish is a rare species of monkfish that lives in one of the deepest known parts of the ocean, at a depth of more than 900 meters below the surface. They're known for their distinctive coloration, and of course, the dorsal fin in front of their mouth. The last place you'd expect to find one of these is on the beach, but a beach visitor noticed the eerie creature during a morning walk on California's Newport Beach. He immediately contacted the state park rangers, and even with all those people there, no one could figure out how this deep-sea creature had washed ashore and almost completely been preserved. Pretty creepy, and makes you wonder what else is hiding in our oceans. We know that lobsters, including the Japanese giant crab, can reach considerable sizes. But in this video, we see some people who saw a giant crab on the beach and pulled it out of the water. This was reportedly filmed on the coast of the town of Muanabo in Puerto Rico. The lobster was reportedly found by a fisherman from a restaurant during their search for fresh seafood. According to some people, this could be the largest lobster ever found. It reportedly took a combined effort of several men to drag the animal out of the water as well. A family visit to Texas Beach turned into an unexpected historical exploration when they discovered a mysterious World War II object. Amanda Ward and her family were enjoying their time at a Port Aransas beach when they spotted something unusual on the shore. Initially, they thought it was a rock, but upon closer inspection, they realized there was layers of stretchy, flesh-colored material wrapped around it. The box-like object was covered in amber, shells, and algae, adding to its enigmatic appearance. Eventually, someone brought a knife, and they cut through the layers to discover it was a rubber bale made of latex-like material. Further investigation revealed that the rubber bale was actually from a sunken German warship, the SS Rio Grande. In 1944, this ship was carrying various cargoes, including tin, copper, cobalt, and rubber bales. When it was spotted by American warships off the coast of Brazil, to prevent the ship and its cargo from falling into enemy hands, the crew scuttled the ship. Have you ever found something on the beach? Let me know in the comments. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos we've made, click one on the screen or take a look at the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
This haunting was later the basis for the movie The Haunting in Connecticut, because they were being haunted in Connecticut. It makes so much sense. Ed Warren says that this is one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for poltergeist activity caught on camera. The family were being plagued by ghostly activity and wanted help, so they called demonologists. It seems in the footage, Ed is holding a seance to contact a spirit. This is what happens when he asks who's there.
One knock for yes, two for no. Are you a man? Are you a boy?
Then this is what happens when asked if the young spirit wants the family to leave.
You want the people in this house to move? One knock for yes, two for no. Yes.
The Warrens also recorded this footage of the poltergeist moving chairs.
Give me some sign.
Later, the poltergeist is shown trying to pull a chair out from under a child. Years later, Lorraine was interviewed about the house, and she said the spirits were cleared with an exorcism. She also said this.
There was a very old tree that was right in front of this house. There was no wind at all, no wind whatsoever, and the tree broke in half.
Coming into number 9, we have the White Lady of Union Cemetery. Ed and Lorraine have investigated many cases and usually have been the duo behind the case's fame. The White Lady of Union Cemetery long since outdates and surpasses the Warrens. Nonetheless, the pair did have a scary moment there and even caught a ghost on camera. The cemetery is in eastern Connecticut and the site dates back to the 1700s. The graveyard is said to be haunted by a plethora of ghosts, the White Lady being just one of them. Ed stayed in the graveyard for 7 nights and saw ghost lights filling up the place. He said on September the 1st, 1990, he experienced something particularly scary. He said he heard a woman weeping. He said shadow ghosts tried to stop the woman getting to him, and this was the photo he took. This is what he had to say.
Your stereotype ghost right here.
Isn't that beautiful?
The electromagnetic energy taken from the plant life in the cemetery is used by the spirit to form this image.
Coming into number 8, we have the devil. Ed and Lorraine Warren met the devil and they testified to it. This all went down in 1981 when they were called into a murder trial. Arnie Cheyenne Johnson claimed to have killed his landlord because the devil made him do it. It all started with a possessed 11-year-old, David Glatzel. This is where Ed and Lorraine first stepped into the picture. The pair were called in to try and rid the boy of the demon along with Catholic priests. Over several days, the group did eventually get rid of the demon. However, according to them, the demon fled into his brother, 18-year-old Arnie's body. Oof. A few months later, he killed his landlord in an argument. His defense lawyer argued that he was possessed. Now here is a clip of Ed talking about Arnie.
And he screamed at these devils, "Take me on. Leave my little buddy alone." He got his wish. He challenged
He challenged the demonic.
Then he says this about when he became possessed.
And Arnie disappeared for a few minutes. When he came back, he was somebody entirely different.
Ed and Lorraine spoke at his trial and attested to the fact that he was indeed possessed by the devil. Thus ensued a media blitz around the case. The pair then wrote a book called The Devil in Connecticut following the incident. Arnie Cheyenne Johnson served just 5 years in jail. Coming into number 7, we have the Borley Rectory. According to demonologists, ghost hunters and psychics like Ed and Lorraine, the Borley Rectory is the most haunted place in the United Kingdom. The building was constructed in Victorian times in Essex, and rumours of its hauntings were rife from the very beginning. Ghost hunters claimed the activity is related to a Benedictine monastery built in the area in 1362. A monk was said to have been executed, and a nun bricked alive in the walls of a convent after the pair had an affair. Obviously, good old Ed and Lorraine had to go for a jaunt to check it out. When talking about their first experience at the property, Lorraine said that she was with a skeptical newspaper reporter. She shares an experience of what happened to him.
Something is hitting me. It's hitting me. It's hitting me. And he was absolutely hysterical.
Ugh, a hitting ghost, not what you need. Then she continued by saying,
He said, I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Later, Lorraine said that a recording taken at the church at this moment revealed a woman's voice saying,
Hit him. Almost in a healing way. And you hear her very gentle voice.
Chilling. Was the monk hitting him because the nun wanted him to? Coming into number 6, we have The Witch of Harrisville. Some of you guys may have seen The Conjuring. Well, that horrifying movie is based on a house that the Warrens investigated in Rhode Island. Now, this house was haunted by a witch called Bathsheba Sherman. She is said to have cursed the land so that whoever lived on it in the future would die. What a babe. One of the Perron family members, Andrea, discusses her time in the house. In this clip, she's talking about her sister.
And the door opened to the pantry. And April looked up at my mother and she said, Mommy, something really bad happened in there. Indeed. It's where little Prudence Arnold had her throat cut.
Ed and Lorraine visited the home and exorcised the witch. Or did they? When members from the Ed and Lorraine Warren Museum visited Bathsheba's grave, this is what they heard.
Don't be scared.
Kill. Who are you gonna kill?
Coming into number 5, we have the Enfield Poltergeist. The Enfield Poltergeist was a case investigated by Ed and Lorraine in 1977. The pair travelled to England to investigate the rumoured haunted home in North London. They deduced the mysterious goings-on were a result of demonic possession. The residents recorded sounds that took place in a bedroom after their children had gone to bed. Now bear in mind, in the 70s, not a lot of people had video recording equipment or even audio recording equipment.
All the lights gone out. Oh.
It's right the lamp. Right way across the room. And pull it out of the socket.
So we hear screaming and confusion as the lights go out. It seems as if a lamp was pulled out of the socket. Then this happens.
Who's that shaking the door? Oh. What's on there? Mum's not. Where is it? Oh!
It seems a slipper was used as a projectile by some kind of ghoul and thrown across the room. Over a period of 18 months, more than 30 people, including neighbours, fellow psychic researchers and journalists, said that they saw furniture moving of its own accord and objects being thrown across the room. It was even said that one of the children in the house levitated. Spooky. The events that took place in this Enfield house make up the inspiration behind The Conjuring 2. Coming into number 4, very famous, we have Amityville. In a 2013 interview, Lorraine Warren said that this case haunted her the most. She said, "I will never go in the Amityville house again." What happened in this house that made a self-confessed expert demonologist scared to return? The story goes that in 1974, 23-year-old Ronald J. Defoe Jr. murdered his entire family when they slept at their home in Amityville. He killed 6 people. Now, these were said to be his 4 siblings and his parents. He said he heard voices that told him to do it. After a year, the house was eventually purchased for just $80,000, although the buyers, the Lutz family, stayed just 28 days because of the horror they experienced. George and Kathy Lutz said that they saw slime coming out of the walls, knives being thrown from counters, figures wandering and wailing. George even said that he saw his wife levitating and an evil red-eyed pig-like creature glaring at him. Ed and Lorraine were brought in along with a priest to rid the house of spirits. In an interview, Ed said,
when we went into the house that day, we didn't realize that it was diabolically infested. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I would have to say that Amityville was a 10.
Oh my God. The pair believed that it was the house that cursed the murderer rather than the murderer that cursed the house. Today, there have been 18 different films about the home. Okay, because Amityville was so scary, it gets 2 points of its very own. We have The Ghost Boy at number 3. This picture was taken by Ed Warren as he investigated the Amityville house. The picture shows what appears to be a demonic boy. The Warrens suspected it could be one of the youngest children with his eyes glowing from the infrared film. The Warrens believe that this is one of the most credible pieces of evidence for ghosts ever caught on camera. Honestly, it gives me chills to look at this picture. Coming into number 2, we have the very famous Annabelle doll. So many of you will know the horrifying story of Annabelle, a possessed real doll behind the Annabelle and Conjuring franchise. Ed and Lorraine were called upon by 2 young women to deal with an out-of-control Raggedy Ann doll. The doll then became infamous for being demonically possessed, perpetuating the trope for the demon dolly. Annabelle lives in a locked case in the Warrens Occult Museum. Now, there isn't any video evidence of the doll being a menace, but things did get pretty scary recently when the doll was moved in a Facebook Live video. On hand at the Warrens Museum were Dan Rivera and Tony Stepra, who were handling the move. Dan says this about Annabelle.
The most diabolical, most haunted, most evil item in the occult museum.
And he is also charged with moving the doll. Tony explains how Dan has made it safe to move Annabelle here.
As long as your skin is not going to be in contact with the aura of that doll, which is touching the surface of the doll with your human hands. You don't want to do that.
Before the doll is moved, the pair pray.
Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle, be our protection against the malice and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who wander through the world, for the ruin of souls. Amen.
Okay, watch as they move the doll now. It's really tense.
Okay, quickly. Right over here. Go into the case.
They then pray again and also tell a story about a guy who provoked Annabelle by tapping on her case. According to the duo, the man died that evening in a bike accident. Okay, finally, arguably one of the most haunted places in the world, a truly, truly, truly terrifying place. I'm not sure I'd even ever set foot in it. We have the Occult Museum. So this is one of the scariest things that Ed and Lorraine ever experienced together. This was the creation of their Occult Museum in Monroe, Connecticut. This is what Lorraine said about the place when she was leading a tour of her home.
You're in probably one of the most haunted places in the world because of the things that are in here. Everything in here has been taken from some place where people are either killed or maimed or so many ways. So it's tragic for me.
So basically it's the culmination of all of their scary cases in one. In the museum you can find Annabelle, no thanks, and the Conjuring Mirror, and way more. She says you should never ever touch anything in the museum. Now despite living with Annabelle in the museum, this is Lorraine's reaction when she walks by her.
This is the worst thing in here. It's that doll. I'm not gonna stare at it though. So you can take the picture, but I'm not gonna stare at it because that has done bad harm on a lot of people.
A priest circulates the museum daily to bless the space.
Father, and of the Son, of the Holy Spirit, amen.
What has been done is circular embolism, which is prayers, are said all the time, to pray.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. Coming in at number 10, let's just get it out of the way, we have Annabelle. Okay, so we all know that Annabelle the doll resides in the Occult Museum, so let's just honestly get her out of the way and move on. Annabelle is a Raggedy Ann doll that lives in a glass box because she simply can't be trusted to be unsheathed to the real world. The doll is demonically possessed by a dead child named Annabelle. Hip hip hooray. The doll has portrayed some horrifying and very evil behavior, and the Warrens were given the doll by a student nurse who simply couldn't handle having her around anymore. Annabelle the doll was the inspiration behind the scary movies The Conjuring and Annabelle Creations, so a pretty scary plushie. Visitors at the museum are warned profusely not to even touch the glass cage that the creepy old smiling Annabelle sits in. You don't want to find out what kind of malevolence she could unleash if you break the rules. Moving on to number 9, we have a vampire coffin. It seems that the vampire coffin on display in the Occult Museum was found by the Warrens themselves and was used by a real-life modern-day vampire. But was it though? Let's take a look at it, shall we? I mean, there really is rather a lot going on here. There's a window with a creepy doll head on a plinth. Apparently the plinth is important. There's some kind of mounted devil head too, a spooky necklace, and a picture of the alleged vampire in question. And like, what is happening at the top there? Also, is the vampire who this belongs to pissed that his bed's been stolen? Like, I would be. Is he gonna come looking for it? So many questions. Coming into number 8, we have child gravestones. Okay, but like, actually, what is wrong with the Warrens? I get it, Occult Museum and everything, but do we not draw the line at tombstones of children? Apparently, we do not. These wee little graves can actually be found outside the main museum, just to like create a more total experience in the walk up to the building. It is said that the graves on display belong to children who were used in ritual sacrifice for satanic spells. Coming into number 7, we have the 2 deaf dolls. These dolls are a little bit different from Annabelle, as they are said to be voodoo dolls or witch dolls. Sure, they look creepy. I mean, one of them has a noose around its head, for goodness sake. The other one has had its eyes gouged out, which isn't better by any means. The story behind them is even creepier, because you see, voodoo dolls are used to bring real harm to real people. The noose on the neck of one of the dolls probably indicates that someone died, and gouged out eyes, well, that isn't a great sign either. It seems that a doll collector came across these dolls and brought them home. I would leave them very much where they were. On bringing them home, she found that her son's health began deteriorating rapidly. Now, it seems that some of the witch's voodoo doll magic had retained and picked the boy as its new vessel. The collector contacted the Warrens, who removed the dolls, after which the boy recovered. But the story continues. It seems that a visitor to the museum broke the rules and touched one of the dolls and was later involved in a horrifying accident. This is what happens when you touch the creepy dolls. Coming into number 6, we have shrunken heads. Okay, do you know what shrunken heads are? Because if you don't, let me break it to you. They are the real decapitated corpse heads of dead people that have been prepared as tribal trophies. Sounds great. To make a shrunken head, you have to remove the skull meticulously, and then you sew the eyes and mouth and nose shut. All of the brain matter and fat from the head is also removed. A ball is stuffed in the head to keep the shape, and then the head is boiled with water-containing tannins. Ugh. Head soup. No. The head is then dried with hot rocks and buried in sand, usually for a year. Great. So in the Occult Museum, there are real decapitated heads, and these ones have been used for tribal magic rituals. There is some seriously bad juju associated with some of these heads. Coming into number 5, we have the Summoning Mirror. A classic haunted mirror. Mirrors have long been associated with the spirit world. Indeed, legends like Candyman and Bloody Mary seem to suggest that spirits can be summoned from paranormal planes using a mirror. This isn't just any mirror at the Occult Museum. Of course it isn't. This is a special conjuring mirror used to bring forth spirits and demons. The only thing is, though, you don't know if what answers your call will be a good spirit or a bad spirit. To me, I have to say, the mirror is pretty beautiful and lavish. Like, I'd like that in my bedroom. Although, maybe without the side of spirits popping up. They can stay out. Coming into number 4, we have the haunted organ. Who this organ belongs to, we simply don't know. But according to the Occult Museum, it starts playing itself at random intervals. Ooh. It is thought that the organ is haunted by a particularly musical spirit, and that the instrument provides a macabre soundtrack to the witching hour at the museum. On top of the organ sits all kinds of other creepy stuff. A sign which reads "Restless Spirit," a hand holding a small ball, a bust of a child, a big frog, a selection of spooky owls. Honestly, wonder how the organ feels about all the clutter. Marie Kondo needs to, get in, sort it out. Coming into number 3, we have a brick from the most haunted house in England. The story of the Borley Rectory is actually pretty chilling. The building was constructed in 1862 in Victorian times in Essex, and rumours of its haunting were rife from the very beginning. The building was severely damaged by a fire in 1939. Ghost hunters claim the activity is related to a Benedictine monastery built in the area in 1362. A monk was said to have been executed, and a nun bricked alive in the walls of the convent after the pair had an affair. It is thought that the nun and the monk haunt the grounds and had a hand in the fire that tore through the rectory building on the site. Before the fire, it was said the owners of the house had found human bones on the property and experienced poltergeist activity. Despite the fire rendering the building inhabitable, hauntings in the ruins continue. Now, of course, good old Ed and Lorraine had to go for a jaunt there, and they took a token back to the museum with them, a brick from the ruins. Was it one of the bricks that was used to keep the nun in the wall? Does it carry any of the bad energy from its horrible history? Possibly. Coming into number 2, we have the Wood Dweller. Ugh, the story behind this object honestly fills me with fear. So the story goes that the satanic idol was found in the woods by a guy who was out hunting. The man said that he walked up to the doll and had a horrible feeling. Have a listen to what the Warren Museum had to say about it.
He didn't know why. He looked at it, it was so spooky to him. He got this feeling of dread and this feeling of horror. And he said he was sitting next to it, just almost lost all his strength.
Honestly, that's terrifying. It scared a grown man, a huntsman. All of his energy was just drained, and he said he was filled with dread. Ugh. He said he turned away from the idol, and then he saw a man wearing a black cloak walking in step opposite to him. It seemed that the horned idol is used for satanic rituals for summoning evil spirits. The man did make his way out of the forest and told the Warrens about the idol. Of course, Ed and Lorraine went to seek it. Lorraine Warren was particularly affected by the piece and said that one of the demonic spirits inside the idol sent her into a catatonic state for days. She even claimed it made her levitate. Does this sound like something should be on display to the public? To me, no. Put it away. Okay, this needs to be put away. It freaked me out harder than Annabelle, and I don't know who's going to make a movie about this, but they should. We have the heart-stopping Shadow Doll at number 1. Let's have a look at this Shadow Doll, shall we? Honestly, my eyes. Take it away. This doll is said to have been created by black magic and is comprised of human and animal bones. Hip hip hurrah. The life-size doll is labeled as a doll of shadows and hexes, and if you ever visit the museum, you should be careful not to look the doll in the eye, for it seems that it has the ability to visit you in your nightmares, giving you a fright so hard you could have a heart attack. Apparently, even so much as photographing this doll could expose you to its hex, so be careful. The Warrens say that the doll was given to them by a couple who found it in an antique store. I know, right? Who wouldn't look at this doll and think, what a beautiful vintage piece worth taking home? Obviously, just ignoring the warning signs of the doll's demonic fashion sense and the soul-sucky open mouth and the gormless eyes. Yep, the couple took it home and began experiencing terrible sleep paralysis and nightmares, and at this point, I'm thinking, who do they have to blame but themselves? The husband even woke up with scratches on his back. Who do you gift a horrible demonic doll to? The Warrens, of course.
Coming in number 10, we have Orange Cheyenne Johnson. Not everything that the Warrens were involved in had to do with them going into a house to try and kick some spiritual butt. I mean, this case started like that, but then it turned into one of the most famous court cases of all time. Orange Cheyenne Johnson had the Warrens come to his home to help a young boy who was apparently possessed by a demon. The Warrens were successful in ripping the demons out of this boy's body, which there were apparently 40 of. But something went wrong. The demons left the boy's body, but then moved over to Orange Cheyenne Johnson's body. Can we just address a couple of things here? First, how many demons can fit into one body? This dude had a house party living inside of him, and that turned him completely evil. But what if you just had like 1 or 2 demons inside of you? Could you just keep living as a normal person, but you would just feel dehydrated sometimes? Like, what's the deal on that? And you think the Warrens would be better at their job and know to not let the demons move from one body into another body. But back to my story of Mr. Johnson. These demons started to drive him crazy, and then one day he snapped and attacked his landlord. He stabbed him multiple times, which led to his death. Johnson was arrested, and during the trial, he used the defense of being possessed, where the Warrens actually came in to speak on the matter, since they kinda were the reason that the demons were in his body. Now, even though these demons were floating around in him, apparently he was still sent to prison, which I think is the right thing to do. Next on the list, guys, we have the Perron family. This is a very disturbing case that is one of the most famous that the Warrens investigated. If you have seen the movie The Conjuring, then you'll have an idea of what went on here. This is the case the movie was based on. And to be fair, the real case is actually even scarier. This was when the Perron family moved into a home back in 1971. They were probably happy to have a house that was such a steal, but all that happiness would go away when they found out what was going on within the walls. Turns out the whole place was infested with ghosts. At first, it seemed like nothing too big. There were small items that would go missing and dirt that would show up in rooms. Then things started to get more intense. Their beds would float, and people started to see ghosts walk through the halls. The Perron family started to look into what was going on in this home, and they found out that many people had died on the property. A lot of them had taken their own life, and there were even people who had hung themselves, or even creepier, some people had drowned themselves behind the house in a river. The Warrens came through and were able to perform an exorcism to clean up the house, and the Perrons eventually stopped having ghostly troubles. Next on the list, guys, we have the White Lady of Union Cemetery. The Union Cemetery is one of the most famously haunted places in America. This has been a hotspot for ghosts since the 1700s. Now, the Warrens weren't the first to come in and investigate this place for being packed with ghosts, but they did some pretty intense experiments to try and confirm their beliefs that ghosts were haunting the area. Ed went in there and spent 7 nights in the cemetery. That's like one of those questions where someone's like, what would you do for $1 million? Would you spend 7 nights in a cemetery? But this dude was doing it just for poops and giggles. I'm not going anywhere near that thing unless I'm getting at least 10K. But Ed did get exactly what he was looking for. During one of his nights in the cemetery, he saw a figure of a woman who was crying and walking towards him, but shadow figures came out and stopped her from reaching Ed. He snapped a picture that looked like a big white blob, but he claims that this was the White Lady using her electromagnetic energy to grab his attention. Next on the list, we have the Bowley Church hauntings. The Warrens better be racking up a lot of money for all the movies that were made about their adventures. I hope that I live such a wild life that when I get old, people make movies about what I did. Now, if you have seen the movie The Nun, then you will know the backbone of this story. I don't think I need to state that the movies exaggerate what happened in real life, but this did take place at a church. There were reports of some creepy things happening. There was a headless ghost that would be seen walking around the church that people thought was a monk. There was the ghost of a dead nun that was seen walking around as well. Apparently, there was a body found of a nun in the walls of the church. It's thought that she could have been buried alive for having an affair with one of the monks. Damn, dude. They really didn't take stuff lightly back then. Next on the list, we have Bill Ramsey. Now, out of all the ones on this list, it would seem that this one would be probably the coolest. From the time Bill Ramsey was a kid, he had some pretty crazy things going on. He was insanely strong, and he would sometimes act like an animal. Maybe he was just a weird kid, and no one really cared because eventually he started acting normal. That's until he was a grown man. He started to crave blood and would wake up in the middle of the night panting like an animal. Eventually, he has to be locked up for the protection of the people around him when he started to attack people, and it took 6 cops to take him down. The Warrens came in and performed an exorcism, and after that, he was as right as rain. Next on this, guys, we have the Smller family. It would seem that you couldn't move into a new home in the 70s or 80s without having something to do with ghosts inside of it already. Well, the Warrens were hot on the trail of this one after the Smller family was attacked by several ghosts in their home. People were pushed down the stairs. The dog was thrown against the wall. Items in the home were broken, and even things that were too graphic for this channel happened. The Warrens came in and pushed the ghosts out, and while doing so, they saw a dark being appear out of the floor and float up to the ceiling. Next on the list, guys, we have the Enfield poltergeist. Not every case with the Warrens turned into them being the masters of the spectral realm. Sometimes people wanted nothing to do with them. There was the case of the Enfield poltergeist, where there was apparently a kid who had a ghost living inside of him. Now, there were a bunch of reports saying that this kid was just making this up, but this didn't stop the Warrens from investigating. They heard word of a ghost and they wanted to get to the bottom of it. But when they showed up, they didn't even tell the family that they were coming. They thought they were famous enough to just be allowed to walk around any rumor of a ghost. I think the clout was getting to their head a little bit. But what ended up happening was the family didn't even let them into the house. The family talked to them for a little bit, but that's about as far as they got in terms of removing a ghost from a child. Next on the list, guys, we have the haunting in Connecticut. If I move into a new place, one of the first things I'm going to ask is if there has ever been a dead body in the house. It would seem that most ghost problems come from a slew of corpses hanging out in the basement at one time or another, and that's exactly what we have here. It was Carmen and Al Snydecker that needed to move into a new home so they could be closer to the hospital. See, their son was very sick, and they wanted to be able to rush over at a moment's notice. Because of their desperation, they moved into a home that used to be a mortuary. So as you can imagine, there was a lot of ghost activity hanging around in the home. The family saw a ton of spectral activity. There was dead bodies that would rise out of the ground. Blood would come out of the tap. Spirits would walk down the hall. Now, there has been a ton of evidence to disprove a lot of the stuff the Warrens have said about the home, but I would like to add on the craziest thing that they said was causing the haunting. The Warrens claimed that the spirits who haunt the home were angry because the people who used to work in the morgue would have sex with the dead bodies. Yeah, I didn't know ghosts cared that much about what happened to their bodies after they died. And also, how do you get those kind of details from a ghost? It's additions like that that make you question whether or not the Warrens were actually telling the truth. All right, guys, next we have the Annabelle doll. This has to be one of the most famous cases the Warrens have ever investigated, thanks to the Annabelle movies. Now, the movies spruced her up a little bit, having her looking like an old Victorian doll, but she was actually a Raggedy Ann doll, which makes her much less menacing. But the stories surrounding this haunting figure are still pretty terrifying. The Annabelle doll was owned by a nurse back in the 70s who thought that it was just a cute little thing until it started to wake her up in the middle of the night with the sounds of crying and dreams of her being strangled by the doll. Yeah, at this point, she should have burned it. But the girl got in contact with the Warrens and found out that the doll was possessed by a demonic spirit. So what was the best course of action? Burn the doll, maybe? No, instead put in a glass case on display in the Warrens Museum. Don't worry, they made sure that the case was blessed by holy water. And next on the list, guys, we have the Amityville Horror House. There has been movie after movie of this horror house, and even if you don't believe in ghosts, you have to admit that everything that went down in this house was pretty nuts. So the story starts with Ronald J. Defoe. This dude lived in the house with his family and then one day just snapped. He took a rifle and killed his whole family. That is insane and terrifying, but maybe the dude just went crazy and had nothing to do with ghosts. But then the Lutz family moved in and they said that a ton of horrific things happened while they were living in the house. They saw ghosts, they smelt rotting bodies, eyes would appear in rooms, their daughter would talk to an imaginary friend named Jody, and everyone in the family was constantly getting into fights. The family only lasted a month in the house before they fled because they were worried about ripping the family apart. After all this, the Warrens came in and they said that there was a demonic being in the house, and Lorraine saw bodies laid out on the floor through her psychic powers. And then they found out that back in the 1900s, someone used the house to practice black magic.